Uh, let's get through it. Let's see. Other folks will come out to the woodworks because this will give them out the courage. Yeah. Anyway, let me see what is in the beginning of this document. United States District Court, Southern District Court of New York. Cassandra Ventura versus Sean Combs. Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Records, Epic Records, Comb Enterprises LLC, and Doe Corporations. Plaintiff Cassandra hereby alleges as and for her complaint against defendant Sean Combs and all of these different entities as follows. Preliminary statement. Defendant Sean Combs is a rapper and record executive popularly known by his stage names. Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, or Diddy. Mr. Combs came to fame in the early 1990s with his record label Bad Boy Records. He rose to prominence in the music and entertainment industry over the decades and is regularly referred to as a hip-hop mogul. In 2022, Mr. Combs received the Lifetime Achievement Award at the BET Self-Collect. During his acceptance speech, Mr. Combs stated, I have to give a special shout out, thank you, love, to the people that was really there for me. He named a number of people before hiding, and also Cassie for holding me down in the dark times, love. Okay, the truth, however, is that Cassie, Miss Cassandra Ventura, was held down by Mr. Combs and endured over a decade of his violent behavior and disturbed demands. For Miss Ventura, the dark times were those she spent trapped by Mr. Combs in a cycle of abuse, violence, and sex trafficking. Ouch. Among other violent and unlawful acts, Mr. Combs gripped Miss Ventura in her own home after she tried to leave him, often punched, beat, kicked, and stomped on Miss Ventura, resulting in bruises, burst lips, and black eyes and bleeding. Blew up a man's car after he learned that he was romantically interested in Miss Ventura. Forced Miss Ventura to engage in sex acts with male sex workers while masturbating and filming the encounters. Jesus. Ran out of his apartment with a firearm in pursuit of a rival industry executive whom he learned was nearby. Oh, wow. Demanded that Miss Ventura to carry his firearm in her purse just to make her uncomfortable and demonstrate how dangerous he is. Wow. And introduced Miss Ventura to a lifestyle of excessive alcohol and substance abuse and required her to procure illicit prescriptions to satisfy his own addiction. Ms. Ventura met Mr. Combs in 2005 when she was 19 years old and he was 37 years old. He signed her to his label, Bad Boy Records, and within a few years, lured Ms. Ventura into his ostentatious, fast-paced, and drug-fueled lifestyle and into a romantic relationship with him, her boss. One of the most powerful men in the entertainment industry and a vicious, cruel, and controlling man, nearly 2 decades our senior. Excuse me. Let me see here. All right, good. Mr. Combs, number 5. Mr. Combs asserted complete control over Ms. Ventura's personal and professional life, thereby ensuring her inability to escape his hold. He provided unprecedented avenues for success for the aspiring artist, but in return demanded obedience, loyalty, and silence. 6. Throughout their relationship, Mr. Combs was prone to uncontrollable rage and frequently beat Ms. Ventura savagely. These beatings were witnessed by Mr. Combs' staff and employees of Bad Boy Entertainment. So we've seen some of this. All this. Let me see. Yeah, but let me just do it detailed, right? These beatings were witnessed by Mr. Combs' staff, employees of Bad Boy Entertainment, and Mr. Combs related businesses, but no one dared to speak up against their frightening and ferocious boss. 7. Following these episodes of horrific abuse, Mr. Combs would immediately attempt to hide Miss Ventura and the evidence of his violent rage. He often showered her with gifts following incidents of physical violence. A typical pattern of behavior by serial abusers. 8. In addition to the physical assault, Mr. Combs frequently reminded Miss Ventura of his ability to cause serious harm, whether by requiring her to carry his gun in a purse or by blowing up the car of a musician that was romantically interested in Miss Ventura. 9. Hiding insult to injury. Mr. Combs used illegal substances and threats of violence to force Miss Ventura into repeated unwanted sexual encounters with male sex workers. 10. Over the years that Mr. Combs abused Miss Ventura physically and sexually, she again and again tried to escape his tight hold over her life. Every time she hid, Mr. Combs' vast network of corporations and affiliated entities found her, and those who worked for Mr. Combs' companies implored her to return to him. Many went as far as explicitly state that her failure to return to Mr. Combs would hinder her success in the entertainment industry. 11. When she believed that she had finally separated her long-time abuser, she joined Mr. Combs for a dinner. Ha! That one, shao. What does this mean? Can you guys tell me what was going on through her mind? Why would she join him for dinner? I'm asking for a friend. Why would she join him for a dinner? After everything we've read thus far, about 19 already, right? Ha! This is bad. Karma is real though. I don't doubt that there might be some truth. What? There's truth. There's truth everywhere on this. There is truth everywhere written on this. But allegedly. This is allegations, right? Anyway. Mr. Combs for a dinner. After which he forced her into her home. After the dinner. Forced her into her home and gripped her while she repeatedly said no and tried to push him away. Jesus Christ. 12. Miss Ventura has now fully escaped Mr. Combs, but the harm that the assaults and sexual abuse he caused her to experience for nearly a decade will forever haunt her. She has required intensive medical and psychological care to recover from the trauma she lived through. 13. Yeah, in terms of allegedly, I hear you. Yeah. She cannot, however, continue to live in silence about what she endured. Accept this, right? Mr. Combs remains immensely powerful and immensely dangerous. Miss Ventura therefore seeks justice for the decade of her life that Mr. Combs took away from her. I guess money justice? I don't know, man. Let me continue. I would love to hear your opinion on that. That Mr. Combs took away from her with threats of violence, excessive use of drugs, and physical and psychological abuse and sexual slavery. 14. Accordingly, Miss Ventura brings his action seeking what kind of legal word is this? Injunctive, declarative, and monetary relief. Oh, okay. So here, this one. Accordingly, Ms. Ventura brings this action seeking injunctive, declarative, and monetary relief against defendants in violation of federal sex trafficking laws, 18 U.S.C. 1591, the New York State Human Rights Law, New York Executive Law 290, blah, 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 blah. Number 15, jurisdiction and venue. This court has jurisdiction pursuant to 28 U.S.C. 3031 as this action asserts violation of 18 U.S.C. 1591 and therefore raises federal questions regarding the deprivation of plaintiff rights. The court has supplemental jurisdiction over plaintiff. Oh my God. Let me see if there's anything else. Okay, parties. All right, so they're talking about all the parties involved that they named earlier on. The LLC, Defendant Bad Boy Records LLC. It's a Delaware limited liability. See, Epic Records, of course, which is, I think, is the parent company of Bad Boy. All right, factual allegation. Miss Ventura met Mr. Combs in late 2005 after Mr. Combs heard Miss Ventura's first single playing in the club and expressed interest in signing her to his label, Bad Boy Records. At the time, Miss Ventura was 19 years old. Mr. Combs was 37 years old. Within months, that's number 26, within months, in February 2006, Miss Ventura signed a 10-album deal. That is a lot of albums. That sounds like you're trying to sign somebody away for life. Miss Ventura's first album, Cassie, was released in August 2006, debuting at number 4 on the US Billboard 200 because, you know, he's the hit maker, right? He has the connection to get those songs played. To promote the album, Miss Ventura made television appearances on MTV's TRL, BET's 106 & Park. Miss Ventura suffered from significant performance anxiety during these appearances, and press outlets were highly critical of Miss Ventura's performances on those shows. You could hear the nervousness in her voice. At the time, I just thought she couldn't sing. But anyway, and to be honest, because I remember that, I kind of smiled at it because it made me really appreciate what I really love about her. She's a regular person. It just made me appreciate that she got nervous, and it was kind of cute to me. To be honest, you've got to understand the success for her is coming out of nowhere. It's just so huge, and sometimes everybody handles it differently. Okay? Is that what Mr. Combs said? Mr. Combs, however, sought to rehabilitate his newly signed talent. Okay, that's what he said back then. While clearly paternalistic in noting, and it was cute to him, paternalistic in noting that it was cute to him how regular Miss Ventura appeared. Mr. Combs' comments rang through to some extent upon signing with Bad Boy Records. Miss Ventura was quickly thrust into the spotlight and was unfamiliar with how to navigate her new celebrity status. So anyway, they're supposed to write all this stuff just to make their case, I guess. Mr. Combs' recognition and glorification of Miss Ventura's naivety proved to set the groundwork for his manipulative and coercive romantic and sexual relationship with Miss Ventura, a woman nearly 2 decades his junior. 32. Within a year of signing with Bad Boy Records, Mr. Combs became deeply entrenched in Miss Ventura's life, almost immediately asserting possession and control over her, and inserting himself into all aspects of her career and her personal life. The thing about this is that the whole world could see this playing out. No, obviously not the privates, but it was obvious, all right? And obviously they got together, romantically speaking. In November 2006, Mr. Combs invited Miss Ventura to perform a song, Come to Me, along with him at the MTV Europe Music Awards in Copenhagen, Denmark. After rehearsal for the performance, Mr. Combs walked around in a robe with a drink in his hand, flaunting his lavish party lifestyle to his label's newly signed artist. I can picture this. God forbid, train your children. Oh. So even if they find themselves in this kind of space, there's a parent around always, because again, a child may be aspiring to be a superstar, a rock star, a basketball player, anything, right? A parent should be around. You don't have to be a manager to be around, okay? You don't have to be a business manager to be around to protect your children, okay? So you might have a child that said, no, I don't want you to be a manager. I don't want you to be you said, yeah, but we're not doing it. You're still mine. Unless you can turn 18 and do you. But before 18, no, we're going to be around. And in fact, I would appreciate another person to be a business manager, but we're going to be around as a, what do they call it, chaperone or something like that, to be a parent. How about just to be a parent? So, and if that's not in the budget, then forget about it. 34. During hair and makeup leading up to the performance, Miss Ventura's hairstylist and Mr. Combs' makeup artist told Miss Ventura and Mr. Combs was interested in Miss. Wait. During hair and makeup leading up to the performance, Miss Ventura's hairstylist and Mr. Combs' makeup artist told Miss Ventura that Mr. Combs was interested in Miss Ventura. Miss Ventura shrugged off the gossip and in fact expressed disgust given the large age gap between her and the president of her record label. 35. Emphasizing the age and power dynamic early on in their working relationship, Mr. Combs positioned himself as a father figure and protector of Miss Ventura. By way of example, after returning to New York after a trip to Las Vegas, during which she endured a brief hospital stay, Miss Ventura, who by then was fully healthy, went out to a club with her friends. Abort mission. When Mr. Combs saw her out, he reprimanded her, telling her to go home and take care of herself. At the time, Miss Ventura thought that her record label was looking out for her well-being and that Mr. Combs had her best interest in mind. 36. Mr. Combs also ensured he was intertwined with Miss Ventura's personal and social life. For instance, by inviting himself to Miss Ventura's 21st birthday party in Las Vegas. 21. Oh, well, that's like tomorrow from my 15-year-old son. Yeah. He also brought famous musicians and producers, thereby flaunting his celebrity status and influence in front of a young and impressionable Miss Ventura. 37. Although Mr. Combs knew that Miss Ventura was in a relationship at the time, and even though he was publicly in a relationship with Kim Porter, right, the late Kim Porter, Mr. Combs nevertheless pursued Miss Ventura. At an after party in a hotel suite following Miss Ventura's 21st birthday party, Mr. Combs pulled Miss Ventura into a bathroom and forcibly kissed her. Damn. You know, it goes back to what we were saying earlier. You can go too far and not be able to come back. When you have too much money, too much access, too much power, right? You would think that, hey, you can get any girl you want, literally, right? Yeah, but that's not how the brain works. That's not how the brain works. This is why you need to have accountability systems around you, especially when you're a person of status, right? To protect you against you. Yeah, to protect you against you. Miss Ventura did not consent to this unwanted contact. She immediately ran out of the bathroom and the hotel suite and cried. She told her best friend at the time about what had happened, but was too scared to tell anyone else. 38. At the Video Music Awards the following day, Miss Ventura's boyfriend at the time joined her and Mr. Combs at a table at the awards ceremony. Mr. Combs became angry. Can't even control himself. Telling Miss Ventura that the invitation to the awards ceremony was only for her and not for her significant other. Yeah, it's going to become awkward. 2. Mr. Combs lures Miss Ventura into a relationship. 39. Despite her clear rejection of Mr. Combs' advances, Mr. Combs continued to demand Miss Ventura spend time with him, including for a weekend at Mr. Combs' residence in Miami and for night out in New York City. 40. On one particular night around September 2007, Mr. Combs insisted on taking Miss Ventura out. Miss Ventura acquiesced, fearing that rejecting Mr. Combs' request would have repercussions for our album deal with Mr. Combs and his company, Bad Boy Records. 41. Mr. Combs picked up Miss Ventura from her apartment in Manhattan in a blue luxury vehicle. Miss Ventura was surprised that when she got into the car, Mr. Combs was already inebriated. What is that? What's inebriated? Hey, Jesus, what is that? My English is not going that far. Let me see. He was drunk and intoxicated. Oh, wow. All right, let's keep going. 42. He landed her a pill and told her to take it. When Miss Ventura asked what the pill was, Mr. Combs dismissed her and told her she would like it. She later learned the pill was ecstasy. This is obvious. This is obvious. right? This is obvious. You've seen this in movies, right? But obviously it's obvious. They have money, access, drugs, sex, all that kind of stuff. And they don't know when to just... There's some girls that would just happily be in that ward. Well, usually those kind of girls too, typically they've been taken advantage of. They were, probably young girls. Sometimes 14, 15, 16 when they got into that ward. It's just dangerous. It's dangerous. Oh my God. Anyway. She later learned that its ecstasy is something Miss Ventura had never before tried and did not want to try. This was the first time Mr. Combs got Miss Ventura high. 43. Mr. Combs then proceeded to drive recklessly at very high speeds down the West Side Highway of Manhattan. Miss Ventura was very scared but did not dare to object to Mr. Combs, who appeared drunk, high, and agitated. 44. Mr. Combs took Miss Ventura to an upscale lounge in downtown Manhattan where he proceeded to get into an altercation with the security staff who would not admit Mr. Combs to enter, presumably because he was belligerent. Miss Ventura decided to go home, but for the remainder of the night, Mr. Combs messaged Miss Ventura incessantly, complaining that he left him high and alone. Yeah, I bet he did. 45. In early fall 2007, Mr. Combs flexed his power and influence when he paid a promoter to create a fake flyer for a party hosted by Miss Ventura. This fake posting allowed Miss Ventura to have an excuse to go to Miami, Florida and get her away from my boyfriend by using the guise of a legitimate event she had to attend. Miss Ventura was stunned at how easily Mr. Combs was able to recruit others to lie for him. 46. Miss Ventura was uncomfortable with the fake flyer, but because the request to go to Miami was made by the owner of her record label and because she was scared to go against his wishes and face repercussions to her nascent career, Miss Ventura agreed to join Mr. Combs in Florida. 47. During this trip to Miami, Mr. Combs provided Miss Ventura with copious amounts of drugs. She became more intoxicated than she ever had before, and her intoxication lasted throughout the weekend trip. As she wanted Mr. Combs to hold on one second, let me just see here. All right. As she wanted Mr. Combs to continue to support her career, she felt she could not... Let me make sure that my audio is good. Okay, good. She felt she could not refuse Mr. Combs urging her to take more drugs. After providing her with drugs, Mr. Combs had sexual intercourse with Miss Ventura during this trip. 48. Within 2 years of meeting Mr. Combs, Miss Ventura found herself lured into the immediate circle of her boss, the owner of her record label, and one of the most powerful men in the entertainment industry. Mr. Combs exerts control over Miss Ventura's career and personal life. 49. From the very start of the relationship, Mr. Combs exerted his power and influence over Miss Ventura. This dynamic was fueled by their nearly 20-year age difference, as well as their relative positions in the entertainment industry, with Mr. Combs considered a music mogul and Miss Ventura at the very start of her career as an entertainer. 50. I guess we're going to 64. Somebody said that earlier. Mr. Combs' aggressive and demanding approach to those he worked with made it impossible for anyone to challenge him, and Miss Ventura soon learned that Mr. Combs insisted on blind loyalty from everyone in his inner circle. 51. Although Miss Ventura had saved up some earnings from her young modeling career, Mr. Combs' ostentatious display of wealth was intimidating to her. 52. Mr. Combs paid for things with wads of cash and would repeatedly tell Miss Ventura, "Don't worry about money, I have money." 53. Mr. Combs expensed lavish vacations for him and Miss Ventura, purchased a car for her, paid for her apartment, and provided her with extensive amounts of designer clothing. 54. Around 2008 or 2009, Mr. Combs began to rent an apartment in Manhattan for Ms. Ventura. The apartment was within walking distance of Mr. Combs' New York residence. He first showed Ms. Ventura the apartment by bringing her there along with her parents. Ms. Ventura's parents were skeptical of the mogul's display of wealth, but proud of their daughter's newfound success. Yeah, tricky, right? Yeah. 55. Around 2010, Mr. Combs similarly paid for an apartment for Ms. Ventura in Los Angeles, which was located about 5 minutes away from Mr. Combs' residence. He paid for many of her apartments in California and also purchased a Jaguar for her around 2013 and 2014. 56. All aspects of Ms. Ventura's life were controlled by either Mr. Combs or his management companies. Every event Ms. Ventura attended, from the travel to the makeup and clothing, was paid for directly by Mr. Combs and his affiliated companies. 57. Compounded this all encompassing intrusion into her life, Mr. Combs secured his control over the young and impressionable Miss Ventura by introducing her to a drug-fueled lifestyle that kept her complacent and compliant. Mr. Combs first introduced Miss Ventura to opiates around 2008 and would often have pills and other drugs out in the open like candy. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs has been addicted to prescription painkillers and took ecstasy frequently. 58. At first, Ms. Ventura was given the prescriptions that Mr. Combs received from a doctor in Miami, Florida. Eventually, when Mr. Combs exhausted a supply of pills, he demanded that Ms. Ventura procure prescriptions from this Miami doctor in her own name. 59. Mr. Combs also became deeply involved in Ms. Ventura's personal life with his personal staff, attending to Ms. Ventura's day-to-day travel and other needs, including medical care. On multiple occasions, Mr. Combs had Ms. Ventura's personal medical records sent directly to his email address. For instance, when Ms. Ventura began experiencing memory loss, potentially due to excessive drug use and or head injuries caused by Mr. Combs' beatings, as described below, her MRI results were provided directly to Mr. Combs. Mr. Combs also repeatedly arranged for his staff to drive Ms. Ventura to certain doctors' appointments. 60. In this way, Mr. Combs exerted ownership over Ms. Ventura as another example of the ways in which he manipulated Ms. Ventura and ensured obedience. Earlier on in their relationship, he asked Ms. Ventura what she called her grandfather. When Mr. Ventura said, wait. Hold on one second. Let me see here. You see, close. All right, good. Just wanted to make sure of something. Earlier on in their relationship, he asked Ms. Ventura what she called her grandfather. When Mr. Ventura said that she referred to her grandfather as Pop, Mr. Combs perversely insisted that Ms. Ventura referred to him with that nickname. Jesus Christ. All right, Mr. Combs and Ms. Ventura's relationship becomes violent and abusive. So, 61. What started as a whirlwind of celebrity meetings and drug and alcohol-fueled parties, however, quickly turned frightening and violent. 62. Ms. Ventura was also exposed to the intense violence that pervaded Mr. Combs' rise to fame. For example, on one occasion when Mr. Combs and Ms. Ventura were using drugs together in his home, one of his security staff barged in and announced that Suge Knight, a longtime rival of Mr. Combs, was spotted at Mel's Drive-In Diner in Los Angeles. Mr. Combs began to get dressed, retrieved multiple guns from his safe, and ran out of his home to where he believed Mr. Knight was dining. Ms. Ventura became terrified and began to cry. She was such a young girl at the time. It just makes sense. 63. On at least 2 occasions, Mr. Combs demanded that Ms. Ventura hold Mr. Combs' gun in her purse. Ms. Ventura had no familiarity with guns and was petrified that the firearm would accidentally go off in her purse. There was no clear reason why Mr. Combs required her to hold his guns, except to reinforce to his young girlfriend that he was violent, powerful, and dangerous. 64. Over the next decade, multiple times each year, Mr. Combs would violently beat Ms. Ventura, leaving bruises on her body. After every instance in which he beat Ms. Ventura, Mr. Combs used his money and power to orchestrate extensive efforts to hide the evidence of his abuse, including by hiding Ms. Ventura in hotels for days at a time to let her bruises heal. 65. In one such instance, after a party with Jay-Z, Mr. Combs beat Ms. Ventura repeatedly in an Escalade. Why do you have to bring Jay-Z's name into this? Eh? Why is Jay-Z collecting on this one? Anyway, in Escalade, including by kicking and hitting her, he forced her out of the vehicle on 5th Avenue in New York City. She was eventually able to hail a cab and get to her apartment in Manhattan, where she cried in fear, realizing there was no one she could tell about what had happened at the hands of this incredibly powerful man. She spent the subsequent 3 days hiding in her apartment. In January 2009, after Mr. Combs learned that Miss Ventura spoke to another music manager at a party in Los Angeles, he became enraged. She had hoped speaking to this manager would allow her to further grow her career and that Mr. Combs would be happy for her. Nibo. But instead, he became extremely angry and put her out of the club where the party was taking place. 67. In the car leaving the club, Mr. Combs beat Ms. Ventura, pushing her into a corner of the vehicle and stomping on her face. Mr. Combs' security staff, Roger Bonds, tried to stop the beating but was unable to de-escalate the situation. When the car arrived at Mr. Combs' residence, Ms. Ventura attempted to run away, but Mr. Combs followed her and proceeded to again kick her in the face. Ms. Ventura was bleeding profusely and was ushered into Mr. Combs' home, where she began to throw up from the violent assault. Jesus. Ajibola Olufemi said, "Ola, for a woman or man to be with a wealthy person for 10 years and no marriage in the modern world, the wealthy person go collect. Renee on point." Oh Lord. Yes, a happy call, happy knee. Right? That he will be happy for her, right? Yeah. They probably had a lot of confusing moments where things seems to be good and then they go extremely bad. It's probably extremes. It's probably one extreme to the other, right? That can be confusing to a young girl like her. Let's see here. So during this stay, as her injuries from the beating healed, let me see here. Upon 68, upon recognizing the damage he had done and the physical evidence of his abuse, Mr. Combs panicked and forced his staff to bring Miss Ventura to a hotel suite at the London Hotel in Los Angeles, where she was required to stay for a week. 69. During this stay, as her injuries from the beating healed, Miss Ventura began to fully realize that Mr. Combs' tremendous loyal network not only knew about and witnessed his assault, but also that these witnesses were not willing to do anything meaningful to stop Mr. Combs' behavior. These people are probably making six figures, multiple six figures working for him. Like any other society, when there's bad behavior going on, there's more than enough people who are enabling the bad behavior. Because it's attached to survival. Yeah. That's why you gotta protect your own children. She recognized that she was powerless and that reporting Mr. Combs to the authorities would not alter Mr. Combs' status or influence, but would merely give Mr. Combs another excuse to hurt her. Especially back then. So we're in the Me Too movement now. Everybody's afraid of the Me Too movement. But some of those past will hunt people down. You can see more and more of it will come out. Okay. 70. While in the hotel, she asked to go home to her parents, but Mr. Combs wouldn't let her leave. She lied to her mother when she asked about her online gossip from forum that reported the assault. 71. Mr. Combs proceeded to instruct his assistants to purchase excessive amounts of gifts for Miss Ventura, which were delivered to the hotel room where she remained trapped. 72. Miss Ventura was terrified, isolated, and unable to see a pathway out of Mr. Combs' abusive hold on her life. 73. She found herself becoming numb to the abuse she was experiencing and became entirely beholden to Mr. Combs' demands. She began to blindly follow his instructions out of fear of again being on the receiving end of a vicious beating. 74. I thought it was 64. Jesus. By Mr. Combs' own admission, his relationship with Miss Ventura was like Barbie and Whitney. Oh wow. That's a stupid comparison. A clear acknowledgement of the unequal power dynamic and excessive domestic violence that permeated their relationship. From the outside looking in, Ms. Ventura had heard others refer to her relationship with Mr. Combs as akin to Ike and Tina. Even worse. 75. A volatile and abusive partner who also owned her label and therefore held her future success in his hands had fully exerted control over every aspect of her life. Mr. Combs forces Ms. Ventura into sex trafficking. 76. Within a few months of beginning a romantic relationship with 40-year-old Mr. Combs, this 22-year-old Ms. Ventura felt beholden to his whims and demands. 77. While in New York City, Mr. Combs told Ms. Ventura that he wanted to engage in a fantasy of his called voyeurism. Mr. Combs said that it would turn him on if he saw Ms. Ventura with another dick. 78. The first time Mr. Combs hired a man and brought the man to his home in Los Angeles. The man, Mr. Combs, and Ms. Ventura wore masquerade masks and ingested drugs. Mr. Combs directed Ms. Ventura to perform sexual acts with this man while Mr. Combs watched them. He masturbated while he directed Ms. Ventura and the man to do specific sexual acts. Jesus Christ. 79. The entire encounter lasted multiple days. 80. Mr. Combs began to call the arrangement a freak off or FO. He would repeatedly tell Ms. Ventura at random moments that he wanted an FO, and Ms. Ventura was eventually expected to facilitate the location and the hiring of male sex workers. 81. At certain points during Ms. Ventura and Mr. Combs' relationship, he would insist on an FO weekly. Mr. Combs would repeatedly tell Ms. Ventura that this freak-off was our thing and our secret. 82. Freak-offs would often take place in hotel suites, include at the Trump International Hotel in Colombo Circus. Why you brought Trump name into this? Why is Trump collecting? Why not be like this now? Of course, Trump name must enter. Anyway, the London Hotel Los Angeles, the Intercontinental Century City, the Intercontinental Atlanta, the Intercontinental New York City, the One Hotel in New York, and in Miami, the Mandarin Oriental Hotel in New York, and in Miami, the Fountain Blue in Miami, the Beverly Hills Hotel, and Shutters and Beach in Los Angeles. So it's across state lines. This is what they mean by sex trafficking. On one location around 2013, Mr. Combs had a freak-off set up at the Intercontinental Hotel in New York City, after which he was charged with tens of thousands of dollars in damages by the hotel. Irony, what happened inside there? Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs' chief of staff, Tony Fletcher, paid the invoice charged by the hotel. 84. Ms. Ventura was eventually instructed to use websites and escort services to find male sex workers to participate the freak-offs. Mr. Combs told Ms. Ventura to search for large black penises on the website. They even have a phrase. Don't go and be searching, 85. Sometimes Mr. Combs would pay to fly male sex workers to his location, including to multiple cities in the United States as well as abroad. He required Ms. Ventura and his staff to help him make this arrangement. 86. Mr. Combs' assistants would help to set up the freak-offs, including by setting up the hotel suites with baby Hoyer. Do you have Hoyer? And Astoglide. 87. Mr. Combs always supplied Ms. Ventura and the sex worker with copious amounts of drugs before and during the freak-offs. Ms. Ventura was given ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and alcohol in excessive amounts during freak-offs, which allowed her to disassociate during these horrific encounters. It became commonplace to get IV fluid in the days after a freak-off to recover from the excessive substances pushed upon her. 88. Ms. Ventura was required to dress up in lingerie for a freak-off, and Mr. Combs insisted she wear white nail polish to contrast her nails with the skin of the black men he hired to have sex with her. 89. During the freak-off, Mr. Combs would instruct Ms. Ventura to pour excessive amounts of oil over herself. 90. Mr. Combs would then instruct Ms. Ventura and the sex workers to speak to each other, and then would specifically tell Ms. Ventura where to touch the sex workers. Mr. Combs would say things like, "Grab that big black dick," and ask her, "How does it feel?" as he directed her to perform for him. 91. During the freak-offs, in addition to directing Ms. Ventura and masturbating, Mr. Combs would use his phone, laptop, and tablet to film Ms. Ventura having sex with the hired sex worker. He treated the forced encounter as a personal art project, adjusting the candles he used for lighting to frame the videos he took. 92. While Ms. Ventura quickly deleted any photographs or video of sex acts if they were taken on her, Mr. Combs repeatedly made clear that he retained many videos of Ms. Ventura during freak-offs. 93. Even when she deleted the videos, Mr. Combs would tell Ms. Ventura that he was able to recover deleted videos from her devices. On one occasion, he sat next to her on a flight and made her watch a video she thought she had deleted, reinforcing her inability to escape and the immense power he held over her. See, how stupid is this? If you have $1 billion empire and you're engaging in this kind of behavior, what I keep telling you about the human brain, human emotions, right? Money, time, these things, sex, they are not your mate. If you fly off the handle in how you interact with these things, you will self-destruct. Your ego, your pride, your expectations, right? Yeah, humans are very, we're very flaky, very, like. So I said, don't put yourself on that pedestal. You want to have a good experience? Leverage the powers that be in your favor. Don't try to swim against the trend with righteousness. It's a lie. It's a lie, okay? If you're going to be intentional, just make sure with respect to emotional intelligence. That's all I'm asking. I think being intentional is cool. I think you should do it with respect to emotional intelligence. Okay? If you are discounting emotional intelligence, you will fail. It just won't work because usually there's another human being involved. So even if you're that perfect, the other human being is not perfect. So even if you're really perfect like that, 94. Mr. Combs would pay the male sex workers a few $1,000s in cash for their services. 95. During some freak-offs, Mr. Combs would become extremely intoxicated and would hit Ms. Ventura in front of the male sex workers. 96. Ms. Ventura was repulsed. Should I stop or should I keep going? Should I stop or should I keep going? What y'all think? Now this story I no believe. The girl feet they do as Diddy, they always acknowledge him late wife. This kind almost just what? Just go. Almost go just go with another person. Today she go claim saying that the man bring the guys. You participated. Oh, welcome to the real world. It's always the man's fault. Okay. She was the young one. She was 19, he was 40. How do you think that plays out in real life? If that was your daughter? No, I didn't think so. Sorry about the pigeon. YouTube, they reject some of my words. I hear you. Diddy was never married to Kim Porter. No, they were never married. No, they were married. He's never been married. Well, most of these are made up. Remember, a family as a family with the mother of the children. Cassie was like a babysitter. I'll tell you what. If 25% of what we see here is true, it's no wonder he's settled. Right? I think that's the lessons. The lessons are not if it's made up or not. You know, there are lawyers involved in this. They have to paint a certain picture so they have a chance to win. So she can finally get the justice she's looking for. Right? But if you break it down to the details, we're not going to pretend that superstars and rock stars from the 90s did not participate in these crazy behaviors. When you have a child involved in that, yes, a 22-year-old woman is a child. Listen to me carefully. Especially to a 40-year-old man. You deserve everything you collect 40 years later. I'm sorry. This could have been anybody, any one of us, right? We get too much access, too much power, we start acting mad, right? But you collect. And as part of game in life, you need to be okay with the repercussions of this behavior. Just like, it is what it is. I got away with it as long as I could, but hey, this is real life. Some people call it karma, some people, whatever you want to call it, right? But right here, I'm a 22-year-old child, a 40-year-old man, too much power, too much access, guns, right? Sex workers. That doesn't sound too far-fetched. It's allegedly, but it doesn't sound too far-fetched. Now, in painting how it played out, that she was just innocent, you can speak to that, I guess. But if they go to court, Baba, the judge go believe how. That's why it's Yara and Brain who settle. Just so we know. I focus on reality here, not what it's supposed to be, not what right and wrong is. This is a real world. There are 8 billion people here. So, Yara brain, when we're moving mad, any type of arrogance, pride, expectations, all of that needs to be managed at the same time. I should go ahead. I want the full gist. Okay, all right, I'll continue. I'll continue. I think we're on 96. Yes, 96. Miss Ventura was repulsed by Mr. Combs' demands, but between the physical beating and recognizing his incredible power and incredible temper, Miss Ventura became petrified of her partner and boss and felt that she could not say no. 97. He even would present her with lavish gifts prior to or in the middle of the freak-offs, seemingly acknowledging the ways in which these forced sexual encounters constituted work for Miss Ventura and that he needed to compensate her for this work. At one point, he had given her so many designer bracelets for freak-offs and immediately following his brutal beatings that she felt that she was shackled by his presence. Yeah, there's no doubt that she was lost in the middle of all of this. Remember, drugs were involved? There's no doubt, right? So some might interpret that, but she participated. Me, I interpret that she was a child. Okay? I interpret it like that could be my daughter. Like, no, like, mom. Okay? That's how I interpret it. Emotions, you're right. My emotions are involved. every single neuron of my brain are involved.
You're right.
Yep. I just can't imagine. Okay? Frequently, her anxiety before a freak-off would become so great that she would become physically ill, and sometimes to the point of vomiting. While kneeling over the toilet, Mr. Combs would shame her into performing for him, eventually forcing her to get up and proceed with the encounter. 99. She knew firsthand that telling Mr. Combs that she did not want to engage in freak-offs was met with anger and violence. before I read 100. People that say, just get money. If you just get money, you will suddenly have game. It's a lie. It's a lie. Okay? The richest men in this world today are divorced. Okay? Because it's not about that. Okay? Just get money. You will suddenly have game. No, you will attract all kind of nonsense. You will attract this type of scenario. Right? You will attract a young girl. You thought she was making a decision of her own, but there's something else going on with her, right? She will give you a pass every now and then you're like, well, you start using tactics like shaming, manipulative, money, gifts, right? Because it was never authentic in the first place, right? No, money does not translate to game, okay? Money is a servant. You send it to do what it does, right? Depending on your skill set, your game as a human being. First of all, if you get bombarded with too much windfall too early in life, you tend to end up in situations like this. You either lose all of the money, or you become too arrogant, bigger than life itself, right? And the further you go into like that, the harder you're going to crash, right? But one day, every day for the thief, one day for the owner, right? All right, so I'm just saying, like, let's say, oh, that's cap. Some people get away with it. You're right. It might just not be you. It might just not be you, right? Is it worth it? Knock yourself out. But as for me and my other people, the Prestige family, my family, protect your children. Train them. Okay? So that they can discern. They know that money is not end all be all. Money is the servant. It's not the other way around. You don't become what's the other word that I should be using here? You don't become a slave to money, is the word. Number 100. In addition, any suggestion that Ms. Ventura would refuse the freak-off or otherwise report Mr. Combs' abuse was met with ultimatums by Mr. Combs, who would say that Ms. Ventura could not go to the police because she had a lot to lose. Yeah. Let's keep going. 101. Around August 2015, for example, in the middle of surprise birthday dinner for Ms. Ventura's 29th birthday, Mr. Combs insisted that Ms. Ventura leave the party and go to a hotel for a freak-off. When she expressed that she did not want to go, Mr. Combs had Ms. Ventura cornered by his security staff in order to force her to leave with him. 102. After this freak-off, Mr. Combs and Ms. Ventura went back to the hotel room that Ms. Ventura was staying in, where some of Ms. Ventura's friends were already hanging out. Mr. Combs was severely intoxicated and at one point during the night picked up one of Ms. Ventura's friends like a child and dangled the friend over the balcony of the 17th floor hotel suite. Jesus Christ. Ms. Ventura and her friends were scared by Mr. Combs' erratic behavior, but Ms. Ventura was heavily sedated because of the drugs she took to participate in the freak-off, and therefore was unable to respond to Mr. Combs' terrifying behavior. 103. The freak-offs became work for Ms. Ventura, and despite her protestations, she has not had hits for years, right? Like, how many hits does this girl have, right? I'm interested. Let me see. Does she have any song outside of the first hit song that she had? I mean, she's just known as Diddy's girl, basically. 37 years old now. Okay, she had a song called Cassie in 2006, I guess the album. And then she's shown in films. I think it's just that one album, basically. Yeah, she's just known as Diddy's girl, basically. Anyway, the freak-offs became work for her, so Mr. Combs insisted on this intricately staged and forced sexual encounters between Ms. Ventura and various male sex workers. Ms. Ventura tries to escape Mr. Combs' abuse. 104. Anytime she tried to create distance between her and Mr. Combs, he used his networks to find her and convince her to return to his abuse. 105. On multiple occasions, Mr. Combs sent his employees to lure Ms. Ventura back. 106. In 2011, during a rough patch in Mr. Combs and Ms. Ventura's relationship, Ms. Ventura had a brief relationship with musician Kid Cudi. When Mr. Combs returned from a trip, he demanded another freak-off of Ms. Ventura. She acquiesced. 108. During this freak-off, Mr. Combs found Ms. Ventura's phone and found emails between her and Kid Cudi. Mr. Combs became enraged and proceeded to place a manual corkscrew between his fingers and lunged at Ms. Ventura. 109. Ms. Ventura ran away to stay at Kid Cudi's home to escape Mr. Combs' wrath. Soon thereafter, one of Mr. Combs' staff members told Ms. Ventura that he needed to just talk to Mr. Combs, even though Mr. Combs was enraged. 110. Feeling like she could not escape Mr. Combs and his network of enforcers, Ms. Ventura returned to Mr. Combs. He hit her several times and then kicked her in the back as she tried to run out the door. Trigger alerts. If this is too much for you, you can leave quietly, I beg. Okay. 111. She went to her parents' home in Connecticut where her mother took pictures of the bruises Mr. Combs had left on Ms. Ventura's body. 112. In February 2000, like that, when they put that line in here, this was 112th line right now. That means those pictures actually exist. If they need to pull those pictures in court, they will. That's what that means. And like I said, if only 25% of this is true, that's it. That warrants $100 million in settlement. Okay? 112. Because it's a civil case. Don't take the money thing personally. It's legal. Okay? It's a civil case. Okay? All right. Because I think it's already gone past the statute of limitation when it comes to the state being able to charge. All right. Why is it that they don't come out earlier to say, yeah, why? Let's talk about it. Why is it that people don't come out early? Don't just ask and keep moving and concluding that you know the answer. When you ask that why, you have to be patient for the discussion on the answers. Why is it that a woman who had been abused or a man who had been endured, because men do endure abuse too, right? Why is it that they don't speak up when it happens? Why is it that after I say if somebody use their hands, call the police regardless of who they are so they can sleep in jail at least for one night? Right? Why is it that people still don't listen to that? Why? You tell me why, right? Are you patient for the why? Maybe you just want to say it and then move on ahead to go and conclude that it's just all a lie? Yeah. Well, as we move on more into the future, people are not going to be able to get away with this behavior, no matter how long it's been. Okay? Okay? The only difference is that state versus you, or that person's versus you, civil case. That's the only difference. Okay? Either way, if you have a significant empire, it will be tampered with. It can get destroyed overnight, one day. Eventually, people will not want to. All those people that spit out whatever money they use to settle this will eventually say, you're bad for business. It just get too bad, right? You want to people will disassociate themselves from you. Because you're dangerous for business, you're dangerous for them, right? For their reputation. And it makes sense. Okay? 112. In February 2012, during Paris Fashion Week, Mr. Combs told Ms. Ventura that he was going to blow up Kid Cudi's car and that he wanted to ensure that Kid Cudi was home with his friends when it happened. Around that time, Kid Cudi's car exploded in his driveway. 113. Ms. Ventura was terrified as she began to fully comprehend that Mr. Combs was both willing and able to do those he believed had slighted him. 114. In 2015, Ms. Ventura spoke to a popular music manager at an after party in a hotel suite in Las Vegas. Mr. Combs saw her speaking to this manager and sternly told her to step into the bedroom adjoining the suite. In the bedroom, Mr. Combs beat Ms. Ventura severely. She ran from corner to corner of the room, trying to avoid Mr. Combs beating and kicking. When she tried to lock herself in the bathroom, he pushed through and punched and kicked her while she curled up under the toilet. Her screams were drowned out by the loud music playing in the outside area of the hotel suite. 115. When Mr. Combs, head of security and assistants, saw Miss Ventura after the assault, they began to cry. Miss Ventura had 2 black eyes, a bruised lip, and a huge welt on her forehead. 116. Upon seeing the result of his vicious attack, Mr. Combs immediately took steps to conceal his wrongdoing. 117. He forced Miss Ventura to stay at his home in Holmby Hills along with one of his sons. Listen, I'm tired. Free cuffs, beating, I guess we get the gist. We get the gist. You know, it's probably some, let me see this longer one here. 128. Mr. Combs' tight hold over her life had irreparably damaged her friendships. Around 2018, when Miss Ventura was with her friend Kerry Morgan in her house, Mr. Combs used to ski to Miss Ventura's house and came in unannounced. He and Miss Morgan had an altercation, during which Mr. Combs threw a hanger at Miss Morgan. Upon information and belief, the incident resulted in a settlement between Mr. Combs and Miss Morgan, and Miss Ventura ended up paying Mr. Morgan additional funds in an attempt to resolve the disputes between her close friend and her abusive and controlling boyfriend. Wait, so she was found guilty or something? In a settlement between, she had to pay? The relationship between Miss Ventura and Miss Morgan has been strained since this time, of course. Seeing the extreme measures Mr. Combs took keep a tight hold on Miss Ventura and isolate her from her support network, and having experienced the repercussions of rejecting his demand, Miss Ventura felt that saying no to Mr. Combs could cost her something: her family, her friends, her career. Alright, this is another gRAP situation. By 2017 and 2018, Miss Ventura became desperate to leave Mr. Combs and his abuse of her. She recognized that if she stayed with him, she would never be able to have a successful career or ever. She was already 29. Ever by physically and mentally safe. She therefore became determined to completely break away from Mr. Combs and his cycle of abuse, and made concerted efforts to avoid him. In September 2018, she joined Mr. Combs for a dinner at an Italian restaurant in Malibu, California, for what she believed would be a discussion about concluding their relationship for good. Okay, that would be a reason why, because they have business relationship too, right? That would be a reason why she probably went to a dinner. After dinner, Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura returned to Miss Ventura's home. Why to the home though? Which was paid for by Mr. Combs. Mr. Combs forced himself into her apartment and tried to kiss Miss Ventura. She told him to stop and attempted to push him away. Mr. Combs then forcibly pulled off Miss Ventura's clothing and unbuckled his belt. He proceeded to gRAP Miss Ventura while she repeatedly said no and tried to push him away. Soon thereafter, Miss Ventura took steps to completely separate herself from the long-term abuser, including by leaving the home that he paid for and returning the car he purchased for her. Despite moving away, Miss Ventura's address was posted online in early 2019, leading to fears of her safety. Miss Ventura, who was under immense duress during the months after Mr. Combs gRAPed her, took all steps forcibly to entirely remove herself from her. Like, why would you want to be in a relationship with a girl that's afraid for her life like this? I don't understand. All right, so that she's filed a lawsuit because of this Survival Act in New York City, which was about to be due. She says, thanks to the passage of New York's Adult Survival Act and California's Sexual Abuse Accountability and Cover-Up Act, she's now ready and able to also confront her abuser and to hold him and those who, yeah. Listen, only one question I have for you is this, okay? I'm just gonna leave this alone. This is too long. I can't. Let's call it a day. Let's call it around. Let's round it up right here. Right here. Let's see. She was there with the children at the same time with Kim. Yeah, but this girl was not a. Yeah, I don't think babysitter is wow. No, she was signed as an artist. And she was a girlfriend. That's like whatever else she was. Who cares, right? She babysat or anything like that. Kim was aware of his other lovers and girlfriend, and it's known that Kim and Carissa were on good terms. Who's Carissa? I don't know who that is. They both were trapped in the situation. Or did you mean Cassie? Okay, you talk about Cassie. Was Kim trapped in that situation too? Kim Porter? Is that what happened? She said both. Shout out to you, Coco. Said both wanted to leave and couldn't. Allegedly. All right, I'll be right back. Beautiful girl. It's your love that I've been missing. I miss all your hugs, your touching and kissing. Make love on the floor, the couch in the kitchen. One love enough, we done enough.